Hello, Algebra 1. I am back, and we are going to learn how to graph in standard form. So if you go back to that page we were on with vertex form, let's go to the other column that says standard form. Well, the first thing we're going to write is the actual formula, which is just a x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so that's our formula in standard form for quadratic. So A, B, and C are going to play an important role for the rest of this unit, so make sure you know that the coefficient with x squared is A, the coefficient with x is B, and our constant is C, which will remind you that as time goes on as well. So the purpose of this formula is that it's just easier to solve. So easier to solve, and it's kind of easier to factor too, which you'll learn in a bit. And it's a lot easier to factor. So our vertex, how do we find the vertex? This one is a little bit more tricky. So we know that our vertex starts with h, okay? Well, we're going to find that by using negative b over 2a. It's our formula. So that's what's going to help us find our x coordinate in that vertex. Well, our y coordinate, what we're going to do is plug that number back in. So we're going to plug it in. It's like having f of negative b over 2a. Back to that function notation. So we're going to plug that back in to find our y. All right, next thing we're going to learn is our axis of symmetry will just stay the same. We've got x equals h, or you could put x equals negative b over 2a. Both work. And this is going to be the same as the vertex form, is that if it is greater than 0, if a is greater than 0, then it opens upward. So it opens up, which is our smiley face. Yay! And if it is not greater than 0, then it opens down, meaning we've got a sad face. Because you're so negative, that you're just so sad. All right, so same thing down here as well, that the absolute value of a, if it is greater than 1, then it stretches it. So example of that, again, it's just like 2 and 3 and 700, numbers, big numbers. Makes it a lot wider. And if the absolute value of a is not greater than 1, is less than 1, then it will condense, again, just like it did before. So examples like that is like 0.5, 0.3. Okay, so it'll be smaller. All right, so let's dive into these examples. So this is example 5. So the first thing we got to do is I'm going to label my A, B, and C. So A we know is in front of our x squared. So the number in front of that is just negative 1. Our B is the number in front of x, that's 2. And C is our constant, which is negative 3. Okay, so those are the 3 numbers that are going to stick out to me. Well, my vertex, remember, we find our vertex by doing the negative b over 2a. So negative b over 2a. So what we're doing is we're taking that 2, making it a negative 2. So we have negative 2 over 2 times negative 1. So what we get here is negative 2 divided by negative 2, and that gives us 1. So my x value here is 1. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is plug that in to our original equation to figure out what our y is. So we're taking negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 3. So when we do that, we will find that our y value is negative 2. So our vertex is negative 1, negative 2. And our axis of symmetry is just x equals 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and graph those while I'm here. So my axis of symmetry is at 1. Right about there. And our vertex is at 1, negative 2. 1, negative 2, right about there. All right, so next thing we're doing is finding the other points in this graph. So we're going to go 2 down, so that's 0, -1, and 2 up, 2 and 3. So this is the same stuff as yesterday's, where you're going to take your negative, -1, and you're going to square it, and then add 2 times -1, and then -3. Okay, so you'll be doing that with -1, 0, 2, and 3. So after you find those values, you'll get -6, -3, -3, and -6. Okay, so that's after we plugged each one into where we see x. Well, let's go ahead and graph those points. We have one at -1, -6, so that's down here. We've got one at 0, -3. It's about there. We've got one at 1, -2, which we already have. And then we've got one at 2, -3. So that's on the other line of our axis of symmetry. And then we've got our 3, -6. About right there. So last thing we got to do is connect those dots. Connect those dots, draw your arrows. You can see that it's a sad face, which makes sense because our A is negative. All right, so let's go on to our last example of graphing. So the first thing we're doing is going to find our A, B, and our C. So let's look. We have A. It's a number with x squared, so that's 2. B is -4, and C is 4, because that's just our constant. So our vertex, we've got -b over 2a. So that's just our -4 over 2 times 2. Well, when we're solving this, a negative times a negative is a positive, so our numerator is going to change to a +4. And 2 times 2 gives us a 4, so again, our x here is going to be 1, because 4 divided by 4 gets us 1. Well, now we've got to plug that back in to find what our y is. So we have 2 times 1 squared minus 4 times 1 plus 4. So after we solve all of that, we will see that you get 2 as your y value. So our vertex here is 1, 2. And that means my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. So next thing we're doing, we got to fill out that chart. So we're going to go 2 down, so that's 0, -1, and 2 up, so that's 2 and 3. Next thing we'll do is try to find those y values. So what I want you guys to do now is pause this video, find your y values, and graph it on your graph. Okay, make sure you label all of it. And once you're finished with that, just push play and you can check your answer. If you guys get it incorrect or still need some help on it, just call us over and we can help you out. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you did that problem perfect. So you should have found your y values of 10, 4, 4, and 10, okay, by plugging them in with our function notation. I have all that worked down at the bottom if you're confused how I got those numbers. And next thing you'll do is graph your axis of symmetry. You can see that I graphed that in yellow. Then the next thing is to graph your vertex, which we had at 1, 2, which is my first pink dot. And then with our chart of our x and y values, that's where I'm getting those other 4 points, of plugging those points in as well to complete my graph of the quadratic. So hopefully yours looks similar, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know. Good luck on your worksheet, and go ahead and cross off our booklet for this section. I know we had 2 videos, but you guys did a great job, and see you later!